Hello everyone, welcome. So today we will be discussing about nutrition in our human body. We've already discussed about nutrition in amoeba, what are the five steps of nutrition, and now we will be going in to the nutrition in the human body. Alright, so if we talk about nutrition in the human body, we have got a specific system which is known as the digestive system in the human body, which consists of the alimentary canal, which starts from the mouth and ends with the anus. Through the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, and ended up in the anus. With this, we have got various glands, like in mouth, we have salivary glands, we have liver, gallbladder, we have pancreas, and all those glands which are present. So, giving a brief idea about how the digestive system is, we eat through our mouth and then it moves down the esophagus. Once it moves down the esophagus, it reaches the stomach. At the stomach, there are two glands that work, which one is the liver and one is the pancreas. Okay, so they will be sending in juices, and then after that, it will reach the small intestine, which will then move into the large intestine, and egestion will happen through the anus. Okay, so now when I talk about the digestive system, first is the ingestion that takes place, that we eat through our mouth. And what is there in the mouth? It is the buccal cavity which is there, and in the mouth, if you see, we have got the lips, inside that we have the teeth, and then we have the tongue. So these helps in grinding the food. So whenever we talk about the teeth, which is the outermost, when we talk about the teeth, there are four kinds of teeth which is there: incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Okay. So at the front, you will have two teeth which is known as incisors. Okay. And then after that, there will be a very sharp teeth beside the incisors. So that is known as the canine. And then after that, you will have the premolars and the molars at the end. So the basic duty an uh, of the incisors is to bite, is to eat. For canines, for carnivores, you have a large canines wherein they can tear off the flesh and all those. For grinding, we need the premolars and the molars. Okay. Now, if we go in for the tongue is something which gives us the perceiveness of the taste, or the sense of taste we get by the tongue, because of the gustatory receptors which is there on the tongue. Okay, and this tongue will also help in turning over the food so that it mixes well with the saliva, it softens up, and then it goes into the esophagus. Okay, so in the salivary glands, what happens? Basically, in salivary glands, which is there, which includes the uh, uh, parotid glands, which includes the sublingual glands and submandibular glands, which is there below. So all these glands together, what they basically do, when we have two parotoid glands. So we have two parotid glands, which is next to the ears. Okay, very close to your ears, you have a gland. If you just hold close to your ears, you will find a gland. Okay, and then we have the sublingual gland, which is under the tongue, small dots that you see, and submandibular glands, which is there, which is U-shaped under the mandible. So that is very low under the tongue. So these are the glands which is there, and what it does, it will make the food slippery so that we can swallow it very easily. And this saliva, it also contains an enzyme known as salivary enzyme or ptyalin. Okay, so salivary enzyme, what it does, it will help in the digestion of the starch, which gets converts into the maltose. So it will break down the starch and it will get converted into the maltose. Okay, then the food enters into the food pipe, which is known as esophagus. So it will move, and through the esophagus, the food will move by a movement known as peristaltic movement. So this is a rhythmic contraction of muscles of the linings of the alimentary canal, which will push the food further down. Okay. Now the food from the esophagus, from the mouth, it will move to the stomach. Stomach is a place, it's a bag like an organ, and this is where the churning of the food will take place, as if it's a mixer grinder. So there's a complete churning that will happen. How you take out the you know butter from the curd or something like this. So there's a huge churning that takes place, right? So here also there's a churning that will take place. Okay, now this walls of this small intestine, they they have this linings that is there. Okay, stomach linings. They will secrete HCl or hydrochloric acid, which will maintain the pH of the stomach to be in the acidic pH, and this is very much required for the enzymes like pepsin to work in. So pepsin is required for the partial digestion of the proteins which is there. So basically the gastric enzymes does work on this acidic medium. So hence they say, do not, starve yourself for a very long time, have a meal at every time, so that this gastric juices does not get accumulated. The mucus secreted by the walls of the stomach, this saves the inner lining of the stomach from getting damaged from HCl. So if you see herein, you will see that the stomach, when it enters, when esophagus, it moves into the stomach. Herein, when it exits, we have got a part which is known as duodenum. So when it enters the small intestine, it will enter through the duodenum. Okay, so now we it is entering into the small intestine. Now through the duodenum, when it enters into the small intestine is nothing but it's a huge, very much coiled tube like structure. So it is quite long, that you have the lumen is smaller than that of the large intestine. So a very smaller than the large intestine, but it is a convoluted matter which is there, and the small intestine consists of three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Okay, so this is how it is happening. So duodenum is the starting point, ileum is the ending point when it enters into the large intestine, and the convoluted part is the jejunum. So herein we have juices from the liver and the pancreas which enters in. So liver is the largest organ in the human body. So the liver manufactures bile which is stored in the gallbladder, and from the gallbladder it is released in whenever it is required. And pancreas also, they secrete pancreatic juice which contains many digestive enzymes. Okay, so now from the liver, I told you bile is being secreted. So bile and pancreatic juice, they go to the duodenum, which is the starting point of the small intestine. Okay, so they enter into the uh, duodenum through a hepatopancreatic duct. This bile will break down the fats into smaller particles, like as if you take an oil and just stir it into a glass of water. You will find that the oil has been, formed into small droplets. So emulsification or breaking down of the fat is going to take place, and after that, the enzyme lipase is going to digest the fat to form fatty acids and glycerol. Okay. The other enzyme is trypsin and chymotrypsin. These are the enzymes that digest proteins into amino acids. And here also complex carbohydrates, whichever had entered, they will get converted into glucose. So the major part of digestion will take place in duodenum. Whereas no digestion is going to take place in jejunum. So jejunum, what it does, it has got number of villi, and that is a finger-like projection, and this will only increase the surface area, so most of the absorption will take place. So more of a villi, it will reduce the lumen of the ileum so that the food can stay for a very long time, and there is an optimum amount of digestion that will take place. So that is the job of jejunum. And when it comes to ileum, there is the secretion that will take place, excretion that is moving into the large intestine. Now, just to just it up, what happens in the small intestine, that is a very important part. So intestinal enzymes, they will convert carbohydrate into glucose, fats to fatty acids and glycerols, and proteins to amino acids, right? So I told you in the jejunum part, it has got finger-like projections. So this small intestine at the duodenum will receive secretions from liver, which is the bile juice, which will help to emulsify the fat, and pancreas will give pancreatic juice, which consists of trypsin and lipase. So trypsin will break down proteins into peptones or amino acids, and lipase will move for fats to fatty acids and glycerol. Okay. Now, after it moved down through the ileum, it moves into the large intestine. When we move into the large intestine, it is smaller than the small intestine as far as length is concerned. This undigested food, whatever is there, it will move through the large intestine. There's an ascending column, there's a transverse column, there's a descending column, and a sigmoid colon, and then it moves into the rectum and the anus, right? So the undigested food will go into the large intestine. Some water and salts, they will get absorbed by the walls of the large intestine. After that, the undigested food will move into the rectum and then will be expelled out through anus. So large intestine, what it is going to do, it is going to absorb the excess amount of water whichever is present, and the rest of the materials is removed through the anus. So egestion is going to take place. So that's it when we are talking about digestive system or nutrition in human beings. Thank you.